It's always a pleasure to have you join us on the show, your Conestoga Today. I'm your host, Mamuzo. From the roads we drive on to the buildings we work in to major infrastructure projects that power the Canadian economy, heavy equipment operators, technicians, and trades professionals are at the center of it all. In fact, Canada's construction sector alone contributes more than $150 billion annually to the economy and employs over 1.5 million people, making it one of the country's largest industries. And demand is only growing with labor shortages projected across skilled trades as experienced workers retire and new infrastructure investments expand nationwide. That is, according to the Job Bank. Operators are no longer just driving machines, they are managing sophisticated technology, data systems, and precision engineering tools. Many skilled trades professionals earn competitive incomes, run successful businesses, and build careers that are both financially rewarding and deeply impactful because they literally build communities. Now, if you've ever thought of careers in trades as a backup plan, well, think wisely. My guest today is here to provide profound insights into the world of HDET, as we call it here at Conestoga, the Heavy Duty Equipment and Technician Program. And to help us explore this evolving world, we are joined by Jason Hardie, a respected voice in the trades industry with commitment to workforce development, training, and helping the next generation discover opportunities in the trades. And if you've ever been curious about how it feels like to sit in the operator's seat of a multi-turn machine, don't worry, we might just get into that as well. Now, Jason, it's good to have you on the show. Thank you for being here today and for that long drive.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, awesome. It's good. So first and foremost, we know it's heavy trades, and sometimes these words look like it sounds heavy to the ears. Could you help us break it down? What exactly is the HDET? What do you do? And how does that program run here at Conestoga College?
Sure, yeah. So in our HDET program, as we call it, so we have a couple of different ways. So we have our traditional apprenticeship programs, and then we have the post-secondary programs. So post-secondary programs, the students can come in for 1 or 2 years, learn all the fundamentals of working on heavy equipment to translate that into a role, into a career later on. Whereas our apprenticeship people are going out, they're actively pursuing getting a job out of high school in some cases, going somewhere, starting off as a general laborer, working into the industry and getting their foot in the door in the industry. And what happens is they work most of the year, they work for 10 months of the year, and then for 2 months they come to see us at school to again learn those same fundamentals that we're teaching in the post-secondary programs.
Absolutely great. Now I know that the HDET, as you called it,
HDET, yeah,
HDET as you called it. I feel like you don't get enough credit for the work that you do, and you guys are the tip of the spear on the job sites, construction sites, and what have you. Now, in today's evolving world, what could be the foundation for a career for someone who wants to go into this program?
There's so much opportunity now in heavy equipment. And so if you think about heavy equipment, we often think about bulldozers and excavators and loaders, but there's ships, there's trains, there's all kinds of different machinery related to heavy equipment. There's man lifts that you see, people working on tall buildings with. Those are heavy equipment. It actually encompasses a huge amount, and all of those things are very, very specialized. So, you get your basic heavy equipment training, and then you would go out and specialize in the area that your area of expertise or whatever your company is working on. And again, we can have construction, we can have mining, we can have transportation. All of those different industries are all their own kind of being, but still related back to heavy equipment.
Yeah, I know in my introduction I did mention that your work actually you actually build communities. And now with the figures we just also mentioned, $150 billion, that's a lot of money. So you're actually at the backbone of the Canadian economy, but there's also a threat of manpower.
Right.
How are you resolving, how are you helping to provide, human resource for that industry to continue to grow and then for sustainability to continue to happen within that sector?
Things like this is a great avenue to get the word out to people about the opportunities in trades. And as we were talking about before we started here today, if you don't have a family member that's involved in trades, you may not even know that trades exist or what trades are. There's over 140 different trades, which is, I mean, and basically, and I tell everybody, no matter what you're into or interested in, there's probably a trade for you. So, in some form. And it doesn't have to be in motive power like I, picked my role, and it can be in construction, it can be in plumbing, electrical, carpentry, hairdressing. Like these are all trades that are an opportunity for people.
Okay.
And
so are there special skill sets or curiosity levels that you look out for in your aspiring technicians or trades professionals? Can anyone just register to join the program? Like what exactly are you looking for in your students?
So what I like to see in my students is an eagerness to learn and an eagerness to share. We're like, I always say we're all good at something, but we're not good at everything. And by getting a group of people, everyone's got their own specific talents. You put that together, they become a team. And a team, in my mind, is unstoppable. You can accomplish anything. So again, it's not about one person. It's about a whole group of people. In our programs, that's one of the things I like to focus on is building a community in the classroom and getting those students working together, collaborating on things, sharing ideas, and understanding and helping each other understand how things work in order to repair things or diagnose things. And, and again, building those relationships for the future because it's a crazy small world and they're going to run into each other again. And if you can reach out to a friend of yours from trade school that has knowledge of something to help you fix something you're working on, it's fantastic.
Okay. Now let's tap into your own personal experience because I know off camera we spoke about your interest in trades and how you've built that interest. Now your son is a welder.
I have a son that's a welder, and I have a son who's a auto mechanic and now going through to be a truck and coach mechanic.
So roll like you're a family of trades people,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So let's tap into when you realized that you really had a passion for trades. When was that moment for you?
Well, funny story. So as a young person, I was terrible in school. And one of my proudest things that I show my classes is my grade 9 report card. I got 51 in math, 52 in English, 54 in history, 53 in art. And so I did not care about school. And I was telling a group of students, there was a magazine called Hot Rod Magazine. And Hot Rod Magazine was the car magazine, how to fix up cars and things. That's what I cared about. And so I decided, I worked in tobacco when I was a kid. Grew up in a little town called Burford, farm town, worked in tobacco until I was 13, decided I wanted to be a mechanic. I went down to this garage down the road from my house, a wrecking yard, called Don Henderson Automotive. And that's when things took off for me. I learned that I could take things apart and figure out how they worked. And I learned that I could, take an engine apart, I could diagnose electrical systems. And, Don and his son taught me how to do all these things and gave me those fundamental skills. And it was like, I am good at something. Because when I was in school, I didn't feel like I was good at anything. And I think there's a lot of young people can relate to that. They don't know what they're good at yet because they haven't found it yet. And they just have to find that thing.
And thank you so much for sharing that very profound story because there are many students, and I could even say children too, who feel pressured sometimes, trying to pass science, math, English, and what have you. Yeah. But really, their heart yearns for something. And, it's just that education is good for sure. But until you go through the whole process of learning, maybe from elementary school, then to college, you might not find it just yet.
Yes.
But don't give up. And I'm glad you found yours quite early.
Yeah, me too. I was lucky. I was very lucky.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you another personal question.
Sure.
Now you have your daughter also in trades and your son in trades.
Or both my sons.
Both of your sons are in trades. Yeah. Was it because earlier you spoke about how people who may not have family members in trades may not appreciate trades or even understand how it works or what it's all about. Is there some sort of influence from what your parents do? I'm going to rephrase the question. Is there some sort of influence with, exposures to careers because of your parents' own, involvement in those particular types of skill sets or sectors or industries?
Do you mean for myself specifically?
Yeah, speaking from your own perspective.
Yeah, specifically. So my great-grandfather was a mechanic in the early 1900s.
It runs the blood then.
So it runs in the blood. He went out to California working on machinery. And my other great-grandfather was in mining, and I was actually involved in building the Panama Canal. And so as a drill operator, and so kind of that has translated down through the generations. My great uncle was a mechanic. My grandpa and my great uncle had a garage together that my great grandfather had started. My dad started his apprenticeship there. My dad was an auto mechanic and a truck mechanic, and it's kind of just filtered down through the generations.
We're born into it.
So yeah, we've born with grease under our fingernails, right? Yeah, but it's been fantastic.
Oh,
It's
great.
been
Awesome.
absolutely
Awesome.
fantastic.
Okay, let's take the conversation back to the school environment.
Sure.
Now, for students who love working with their hands but also enjoy problem solving, how does this challenge them intellectually?
So, I mean, I always call it a giant science project. Like everything we're working on, I don't care if it's cars, trucks, heavy equipment, race cars, which I'm excited to talk about later. It is all a giant science project of all of these different systems working together to create something or to build something or to move something. So as far as the students coming in, they have a lot to learn. And that is I think the beautiful part to see is the students when the light bulb turns on and they understand a concept. Because, I tell them all of these skills that we're teaching you, and it's just basically follow a pathway for diagnostics. And if something's not working, follow a pathway and have a plan in order to repair it. And if you can fundamentally understand how something works, you can understand why it doesn't work. And then you understand what you need to do to fix it. And the other cool part of that is it translates into everyday life. I fix my own dishwasher. I fix my own lawnmower. I fix my car.
And you save some cool
I
money.
don't call anybody
Yeah.
to come and fix things for me because I have the
skill
skills to
sets,
do it
yeah.
that I've learned being a technician.
I love
So,
it.
and it's again, very, very transferable. Even if you don't do it for a career, it's still a great skill to have.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I mean, and besides just having the skill sets, because you can also use it for your own needs.
Yep.
Let's talk about what you mentioned earlier, the flexibility on the job if you eventually become a technician or an operator, machine operator. You said, you can also work remotely or you can work anywhere.
Yes.
Just spotlight that for us. Shed some light about
Sure.
how students can appreciate the work flexibility of the trades.
Yeah, I worked, so the majority of my career, I worked in a shop, a traditional shop setting. But the last little bit of my career, the last 4 or 5 years of my career, I wanted to challenge myself. I like challenging myself and pushing myself. And I actually went and worked remotely. So every 2 weeks, I would fly to Montreal. I would take a flight from Montreal 6 hours north into the Arctic. And I lived up in the Arctic for 2 weeks of the month.
In the Arctic, you said?
Canadian Arctic.
Oh
yeah,
my.
the Canadian Arctic. So I lived up there for 2 weeks of the month. And I would work on the equipment. So at the mine I worked at, it was called Baffinland Iron Ore Mine. We were mining iron ore off the top of a mountain. So my role, I was a field service technician. I was in my service truck and I would drive up to the top of the mountain and look after all the large equipment on top of the mountain, making sure it was running properly, repairing any breakdowns or any issues the operators were having. So it was a very fast-paced, busy, but cool experience, cool in more than one way experience. Right?
And your love for this trades actually got you there, because I don't know how many people in your right minds would just take such a risk
Yeah.
to be on sort of the Arctic to do that kind of a job. But it's beautiful to know that we have people like you who are very passionate about what they do and are willing to teach others. So my next question to you is, let's look at the emerging technologies and how they influence,
Sure.
the sector. Now we see it's evolving from just putting screws together and using
Right.
your regular hammers and hinges and what have
Yep.
you. Now we have technology helping us, fine tune some of those processes and even making them far more easier.
Absolutely.
Are we losing manpower already, or we have these machines just helping us to accelerate our work processes?
We're not going to push manpower out of the way. We still need manpower.
Mm-hmm.
These systems are very, very smart. We're running far more efficient systems. So we're utilizing more of the machine for its capability than we ever did before based on the systems. Everything's working together. If you think about it like an office, everybody is communicating in that office to get the job done. And a team of people doing something is far more effective than one person doing it. So we're relying on communication through the whole machine of all the different subsystems in the machine communicating in order to get the job done quicker, more efficiently, and more accurately. So, as far as technicians go, we're plumbers, we're welders, we're IT people. Our roles are really, really changing from what the traditional technician role was.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we know that in Canada, most universities offer this program, but it's usually within a 4-year period. Conestoga offers this within 2 years. Am I correct?
Yeah, so we have the 2-year heavy equipment program, and the traditional apprenticeship role is a 3-year typically program,
Okay.
2 months at a time.
So why is this advantageous alternative for people who are looking to go into this program or into this sector?
Well, so are you talking versus a university
Yes,
education?
I mean the time frame is what I'm looking at right now.
Okay.
For university, you have to spend at least 4 years.
Right.
For Conestoga College, we do 2-3 years, right?
Yes.
So why is this an advantageous alternative to the universities?
Yeah, I mean, one of the advantages, and especially if you're getting in a traditional apprenticeship role, you're going to complete it quicker than your 4-year university, and you're making money while you're doing it. So
You are?
yeah, I mean, a traditional apprentice can make anywhere between $40,000 and $60,000 a year while they're still going to school. So you're working for 10 months of the year. Those 2 months you're going to school, you're collecting unemployment, so you're still generating a revenue. But average on a 1 year for a apprentice is roughly $40,000 to $60,000 a year. So there's some great paying opportunities out there for apprenticeship for sure.
Okay, so we can tell for sure that this is a very lucrative industry. But then again, I wonder why is it that people are not quite aware of, the potential that this industry holds? Could you speak to that for me, please?
I think, and that's a great question. One of the issues we have, in our shops, and I'm really happy to see that the high schools are bringing back the trades, and it's a compulsory thing now for kids to take a trade program in the high schools. Not the unfortunate part, but the kind of the part that nobody sees. We have automotive programs in the high schools, but very few of them have a truck and coach program, and even less of them have a heavy equipment or an agricultural program. So I think it's not on people's radar. And if we can get it on the radar, and again, that's why things like this are important, to let people know it exists. Everybody drives by and sees heavy equipment, but nobody thinks about who's working on it or what needs to be done. So again, it's just bringing an awareness out there of the opportunity for people in the heavy equipment world.
That's great. Now, sustainability is on the world's radar, like it's a global focus, right?
Yep.
And with equipment, I'm sure you also find some ways to dispose some of the waste equipment and stuff like that.
Yep.
When we talk about sustainability, we have to look into this industry clearly to see what your policies are and how you're trying to decompose some of the things that you no longer need. So what is the system around that, and how are you promoting sustainability within the school or college culture?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things going on with that, actually. And as I said, the machines are getting smarter. The systems are working together. So with all those systems working together, we're burning less fuel. We're burning 20 to 40% less fuel than we were previously burning because we're managing our systems better. We have anti-idling, so we're not idling the machines. We have green technology, so a lot of companies are going over and working with electric. So there's a lot of smaller equipment now running on fully electric systems. There's also the hybrid system, which pairs a diesel engine with a generator, and again, monitors the fuel burning. So we're able to control how much fuel we're burning. We don't have an operator that's on and off the pedal. We have a generator that's running, engine that's running at 1800 RPM all the time to supply the generator. And so we're using less fuel to do that. So big savings in fuel systems. The electric, obviously, we have no tailpipe emissions from. The hybrid electric, we still have some tailpipe emissions. Then we get into the hydrogen system, so that's newer technology, and it's starting to kind of make some traction, but there's a lot of things that need to go into place for that. But again, zero tailpipe emissions from that. So some very, very interesting technology out there, and a lot of people are working very, very hard to bring it up to the forefront. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So we're happy to know that you're making. It's not just you; it's the industry actually making a lot of forward movements regarding sustainability. Let's talk about now the extreme, because you mentioned the other time you worked on the attic, and I'm thinking for extreme, because some of the students have to go into extreme environments to work. It requires a lot of resilience, grit, and adaptability, and even leadership skills. So how do you translate this in your classroom work as well as your practical sessions to the students?
Yeah, so that's a big thing. And when you're working up there remotely, you're often on your own. You're by yourself. So there's nobody and there's no cell phone coverage. So you're not going to phone anybody.
It's even more scary
you're not
now.
phoning a friend for information. You have to figure it out. And so it makes, in my mind, it makes you a great technician because you are problem solving. You're going back to your fundamentals. And that's why the fundamentals are so important, is to understand how the system works. And if you can logically go through that, then we can understand, okay, what's wrong? What do I need to do to fix it? So, that's a big thing, and persistence. I tell my students, don't give up. It's nuts and bolts. Don't let it beat you. Like we can outsmart this thing, right? And that's what you need to do. You just need to be persistent and not give up, and follow a pathway. That would be my big advice.
Yeah. Now, remember, I shared with you the story I had with the Uber driver I had this morning.
Yeah.
And then I was asking him questions around licensing, because he too studied at Conestoga. He studied welding, and I know that you have licenses across heavy equipment, truck, etc. And this industry demands a lot of licensing. How has that versatility equipped you for the work that you have right now?
As far as teaching goes, with my role in teaching, it's been incredible, because I can speak on behalf of automotive, I can speak on behalf of truck and coach, and I can speak on behalf of heavy equipment, because I have experience in all of those areas. And it's great when I go and talk to young people, because again, I can talk to a classroom of young people and probably find something, common ground that they're interested in hearing a message I have on, based on automotive, truck, or heavy equipment. I find that works really, really well.
So
but again, the systems are all very similar, just different and bigger, right?
Yeah. So for students who are looking to build, successful careers around this, where do they start to secure licenses?
Sorry, which?
Where do they start to secure licenses? Like, I know you have a couple of licensing within this industry.
Yes.
Which should come first?
Well, honestly, again, depending on the pathway. So if you do the post-secondary program, you're going to go out, you're going to gain your knowledge, you're going to learn in the school environment, and you'll be hands-on in the school environment and gain some knowledge on it. Then at that point, you're going to go out and work in the real world, gain more experience, and then challenge your license and write your license after you've accumulated your hours. That's all based on hours accumulated. You need to accumulate so many hours before you're ready to write your license. In the apprenticeship role, you could literally finish high school. I have a young guy that I was helping out. I did a dual credit before Christmas, and he wants to be a truck mechanic. I connected him with a truck shop, and he's literally coming out of high school, going into a truck shop to learn how to be a truck mechanic, and then he will go to school for 2 months of the year, 3 times or 4 times, and then achieve his license after that.
That's brilliant.
And he's making great money right out of high school doing this.
That's brilliant.
So, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're involved in professional car racing.
Yes.
Something I find very interesting. I love to watch, but I don't know much about it.
Sure, yeah.
So could you tell us about your experience with building your own,
funny car?
Funny car?
Yeah. I know it sounds funny, right?
Yeah. As well as the car racing experience you've had so far.
Yeah, it's again been incredible. And so the car racing is much like the heavy equipment world, the automotive world, the truck and coach world. It's a whole bunch of things that have to work together. And so what I work on a top fuel dragster. And so they are basically a land rocket. They run over 300 miles an hour in 1,000 feet under 4 seconds. And we have a crew of about 8 people that work on this car. And the fascinating part for people to learn is every time it goes down the track, it makes 12,000 horsepower.
Ooh.
We have a driver that sits in the cockpit, so it's like a fighter jet, pulls about 7 Gs off the starting line of force, registers 2.5 on the earthquake Richter scale when it leaves the starting line, and we rebuild the engine every run. So every time this car goes down the track, the engine completely comes apart, gets rebuilt, put back together, new clutch goes in the car, we warm it up, we take it out, and we run it again. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
It shouldn't be called a funny car. It should be called
well, that's the top fuel car. My funny car is similar to that. Doesn't make probably makes 1/3 of the horsepower, around 4,000 horsepower, and it has a big fiberglass flip-up body that I get in underneath. The body closes down, but same idea. The fastest guy to the finish line is kind of the. It's like the old horse races, right?
And so this is like a hobby for you, or
it's a hobby for me. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a hobby for me. I have friends that do it professionally, but it's a hobby for me. And my family does it with me as well.
That's
so my
nice.
kids both have race cars. My wife's involved in racing.
Ooh.
My dad used to race. So again,
it's a family thing.
It's a family thing. Totally family thing. Yeah.
Okay, so when you think about the next generation, what excites you about how we are developing and how this industry is evolving?
Yeah, what excites me, in the classroom, and take it back to the classroom, even just last week, the questions that they're asking. You could see them trying to understand things, and when asking questions, and what if this happens, and what if that happens, and and I think I like using case studies. And case studies, when you're teaching and using a case study, it's a scenario of something that's really happened, and you're letting the students dive into it and diagnose it. And so again, great thing for collaboration, having the students work together and figure out, okay, could it be this? Could it be this? And it's funny because they immediately want to try and give you the answer. And I'm like, talk about it, write it down, write down the possibilities. And we're going to talk about it as a classroom because I want you to hear everyone else's ideas too, right? And I think that's part of the thing that makes a good technician a great technician as well, is not having a preconceived idea of what's wrong, of letting things kind of fall into place and being able to diagnose based on those results that you see. There's this thing called the parts cannon that we laugh about in our trade. And it's, if you don't know what's wrong with it, throw a whole bunch of parts at it and probably something's gonna fix it. And we want to eliminate that. And I know, my colleagues and I up in Guelph, we work very hard, in our motive power programs to eliminate the parts cannon. We want our students to understand things. We want them to diagnose things properly. So that's a big thing. And the students are engaged and keen to do that. And it's such a great feeling to see that.
Absolutely. And for students who are eager to join this program, where should they go to? What other information would you like to share regarding registrations and more information regarding this?
Yeah, so they can go to the Conestoga website, and they can go on, they can email Conestoga Trades. And we actually do have an open house coming up at the Reuters campus on March 7th. I believe it's from 1 to 3 p.m. Again, a great opportunity to come in. And I mean, if motive power isn't for you, I'm sure we have something else that you would be interested in. There's going to be people there to talk to. There'll be faculty. There'll be other students. You can walk through the shops and see the opportunities, get a handbook on it. And like a lot of opportunities there. So definitely worth coming and checking out. And I'll be there. I'm excited to talk to anybody that wants to learn, about the trades.
Amazing. It's been great speaking with you, Jason Hardie, professor at the HDET program here at Conestoga College. I have learned a lot about heavy-duty equipment and technician program here at the college, and of course about the careers too. And we heard one thing that was very clear. This is actually driving the Canadian economy. So if you're thinking of a lucrative profession, perhaps you should give this a try for sure. We'll take a break now. When we return, we will have our rewind session to share with you. Stay tuned. Good to have you back. Now to our rewind segment. A good story never grows old. You can retell them and sometimes rewind them to relive good memories and information. This is Rewind on your Conestoga today, and we're playing back some of the creative stories of our broadcast students. Our first story is with Taylor Armstrong, who ditched the cold to step into Maxwell Music House to see why it stands out as a hub for local talents to hone their musical talents, celebrate their music, and the love for it. Take a listen.
The snow's coming down hard on us today, but that's not stopping us. We're here at the Maxwell's Music House to talk to Paul Maxwell, the owner of the venue, to see how your band can get a spot to play here tonight and where you can learn how to play music. My name's Taylor Armstrong, and this is Live and Loud. Can you just introduce yourself?
Yeah, Paul Maxwell, Maxwell's Music House in Waterloo.
What makes Maxwell's so different and unique from other bars and venues here in KW?
We're primarily a concert venue, so a lot of other bars, they're a bar first, concert venue second. We like to think of ourselves as a concert venue first, and the bar second. Not only that, but we focus on hosting independent bands only rather than bringing in cover bands on a regular basis.
Let's give it up for grand format.
name's Tim, and we're Grand Format.
My name's AJ, I'm the drummer.
My name's Kurt, and I'm a guitarist and singer. My name is John, and I slap some bass.
What type of band are you guys? What kind of music genres do you guys play?
Bubblegum freak rock.
Describe bubblegum freak rock.
Kind of sounds like Jimi Hendrix skydiving, I guess you could describe it like that.
What type of services do you offer bands in the area, and how do bands get a spot to play here at Maxwell's?
That's a good question. So our main services are obviously live music. We run 300 concerts or more every year. Not only just in-house, but out in the community as well. And on top of that, we have music school, so we teach drums, voice, piano, guitars, that type of thing. And we also have, on top of all that, we have a Rockstar camp for kids, and we have a special needs music education program.
We're Grand Format, and you're watching Live and Loud.
I'm Paul Maxwell, and you're watching Live and Loud.
How healthy is your appetite? Ryan Jury visits Soupy with his producer Shin, who takes on the challenge to grow up on a heavy, meaty 60 pounds panage with some fries. Find out.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Tri-City Eats. I'm your host Ryan Drury, and I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm 0 for 2 for challenges. The confidence is a little low, but hey, no problem. We're bringing in an eager young challenger named Shane Lowry, and he's gonna take on a huge burger here at Morty's Pub. This burger is so big it defies logic, it defies common sense. All we know is that it's an intestinal disaster for whoever tries it. Let's head inside. Everybody, here we are inside Morty's Pub, and we're here with the owner, Soupy.
How you doing, guys?
How's it going?
I'm good. You boys ready for the challenge?
Absolutely.
So pumped for this. Ready to meet Mr. Quinn. Morty's Mr. Quinn.
All right, you know what? I'm going to let you boys go in the back. Soupy, I know you're going to show Ryan how it's done.
For sure.
Do that. I'm going to mentally and physically prepare myself for this.
I don't know. I don't know, skinny man. I don't know.
That's probably a good call. Let's hit the kitchen and see how this is made.
Do it up. All right, so the steps to make the Morty's Quinny burger, you got to get that meat on first. So you slap that down, get it sizzling, you flip it once. You want to see those juices come up. After that, you're throwing down your cheese just to melt it. On the side, you got your bacon sizzling away. And then the top here, the onions. And then from there, you're getting your bun ready. So you got to stack it 2 at a time, and then 1 afterwards. If not, it's going to topple over. And that's why we're putting the 2 skewers in it, because it's just too big.
Well, that's what all goes into this gigantic burger here at Morty's Pub. The challenge is up next. So we've got a pretty daunting task here for Shane, and wow, 6 pounds of meaty carnage and some fries as well. Good luck, brother. I picked a good holiday week.
All right, so there's some chirping at the bar from some of the ladies, and they say there's no way you're gonna do it. So should I bring a bucket? Because you gotta clean it up afterwards. You know what, I've seen a lot of challenges, and this is probably by far the most impressive eating. But you know what? Defeat is knocking. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding, ding, ding.
Great job, brother. You did well sitting in. Well, Soupy, thanks for letting us try your mammoth burger challenge.
Thank you. That was
a pleasure.
Fantastic. Cheers.
That's it for us from Tri-City Eats.
Well, what a funny video. Well, obesity is becoming one of the most significant health challenges of our time. And right here in Canada, the numbers are sobering. Recent national data shows that about 1 in 3 Canadian adults are living with obesity, with rates steadily rising over the past 2 decades. And it's not just about appearance. Obesity is strongly linked to chronic conditions like diabetes, heart disease, joint problems, and even mental health challenges. Health experts consistently emphasize that movement, even gentle movements, can make a difference. You don't have to become a marathon runner overnight. Activities like yoga, stretching, walking, or low-impact strength exercises help improve metabolism, reduce stress hormones, support better sleep, and build muscle, all of which contribute to a healthier body composition over time. Yoga, in particular, is gaining attention because it combines movement, breath, and mindfulness. Our broadcast student, Ashley Kafey, shares more.
Getting fit is never an easy task. For those who have gone long periods of time without much physical activity, getting into shape can literally be a painful experience. In a recent study, 23% of Canadians 18 and over are obese, and 36% are overweight. If we're going to turn those numbers around, then we need to start getting more fit. And that's why I'm here at Moksha Yoga, to break a sweat and learn a thing or two about yoga. I spoke with owner Ashley Keefe and took part in a class with Asia Nelson. What are some of the benefits of yoga?
There are countless benefits. Where do I start? If you are practicing a physical form of yoga, there's lots of physical benefits to the postures, to strengthening the muscles, to bringing balance to the body, to stretching where we tend to hold tightness. But as well as the physical practice, whether you're doing just the physical practice or you're complementing it with a meditation practice, the mental benefits are also really an important thing to mention because a lot of people forget about that. Well, because yoga, the physical practice of yoga is really great for balancing the body, a lot of athletes find that it's amazing for their game. So balance is huge on ice skates or, the football field, whatever sport you're playing. Hockey players especially, because they have to wear a lot of equipment and they get really overheated. So the hot aspect of the moksha practice, because we're practicing in a heated environment, they find that that's really incredibly beneficial to their focus and their stamina on the ice.
Finally, what are some of the principles of yoga?
I think the major thing that I would say in terms of principles of yoga is that aspect of becoming present in the moment and opening and accepting to whatever is arising in that present moment.
What should someone know before trying out yoga?
I think one of the first things that we tell people when they come in is to know that the most important thing that they can do is listen to how they're feeling and honor that throughout the class. So the practice is about becoming aware of what's happening in this moment and not necessarily about achieving a particular version of the pose or feeling calm throughout the whole class. And that's a common misconception, is that you're always going to feel peaceful when you practice yoga. And that's not necessarily realistic because we're faced with certain challenges in our life and we're faced with certain challenges when we're on our mat. So we ask people to really respect that and honor that, and if they need to back out of any of the poses or modify, they can always do that.
I feel like my best me.
Well, you know what they say, the best conversation to have is the one with yourself. So I'm going to take that advice and practice mindfulness. All right, on that note, we end today's show. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Mamuzo, and I'll say toughen those muscles, but also build your mental capacity. Until next time, have a great day. Bye-bye.